Module 5 examines the biological transitions that occur within the brain when substances are used repeatedly and why those changes are central to understanding dependency. To ground this process in a professional context, we are following the profile of Marcus, a composite character reflecting the most common patterns identified among safety-sensitive workers. Marcus has driven regional routes for the same company for 11 years. His dispatcher trusts him with the most difficult runs, and his safety record is perfect, with no violations or complaints on file. He is married with 2 teenage children, and he spends his available weekends coaching his son's baseball team. He is often tired, but it is the predictable fatigue that comes from long hauls and the irregular sleep schedules inherent to his profession. At this point in the story, Marcus shows no outward signs of a problem. His life and his performance are entirely unremarkable to those around him. This is where dependency begins, not with a visible crisis, but quietly, while a person is operating from a perfectly ordinary baseline. To understand the shift, we have to look at the reward pathway, a system every substance covered in this course interacts with in some way. Cocaine works by blocking dopamine transporters. This prevents the brain from recycling the chemical, causing dopamine to accumulate far beyond natural levels. Amphetamines trigger a different reaction, causing a simultaneous increase in both dopamine and norepinephrine activity. Opioids function by binding directly to a dedicated network of receptors distributed throughout the brain and body. And PCP works by blocking NMDA receptors, disrupting the brain's ability to process its own physical surroundings. While these 4 substances use different chemical triggers, they all converge on the exact same underlying neurological circuit. This pathway exists to reinforce behaviors necessary for survival, such as eating when hungry or forming social bonds. Alcohol interacts with this same system by enhancing calming neurotransmitters while also triggering dopamine release in the reward circuit. Every one of these substances shares a defining trait. They hijack a survival system that was built for an entirely different purpose. A single use of a substance produces a temporary spike in the reward pathway, which then returns to its original baseline. The brain is designed to maintain equilibrium and does not operate effectively when pushed outside its normal range for long periods. When the reward pathway is flooded repeatedly, the brain initiates a built-in correction mechanism to protect itself. This is neuroadaptation. The brain reduces the number of available receptors and dampens its sensitivity to the signal to compensate for the overstimulation. This physical reduction in sensitivity is the actual biological definition of tolerance. This adjustment is not a choice. It is an automatic physiological response to repetition that occurs beneath the level of conscious awareness. The brain alters its own physical architecture, while the person's external life remains completely unchanged. We return to Marcus, whose daily life looks exactly the same as it has for years. His drinking is occasional and unremarkable, perhaps a single beer after a long haul or a few drinks on a weekend off. There is nothing in his behavior that would cause concern for his family, his coworkers, or even for Marcus himself. But underneath that surface, the process of neuroadaptation has already begun to recalibrate his brain in response to a repeated signal. Marcus cannot notice this shift because the early stages of this biological change are defined by a complete absence of visible symptoms. By the time dependency becomes visible to others, the physical changes in the brain have been building for a long time.